And perfect. And perfect. Boom. And we're live. And welcome to another episode of Life is People. And before I go any further, let's go straight into it. How you doing tonight, Corey?
Good, good. Feeling pretty good. Glad to be on the show. I know you've been showing tremendous support, so I first wanted to say thank you, and kind of following my work and just always encouraging this people like you is the reason why I do what I do.
Well, man, let me just give you a bit of an introduction. I mean, I came across your kind of work really by watching The Forgotten City on YouTube. I mean, I would say just like that. I came across it on YouTube, saw it, and blown away by it. I thought it was an absolute blinding documentary, and do you know what I really respected about it was you actually sort of went straight to the core of the truth. So for people like me, I know Rich maybe not be as aware as it. How did he tell us about the Forgotten City?
Well, that was my first documentary, and it kind of was birthed out of tragedies. I had a friend growing up, and his friend was actually killed. And it turns to find out, like, my friend was the one that did it. So we kind of just were, like, bummed at the idea. And my partner, Addison, wound up going to LA, studying film, studying to be an actor. And I wrote the synopsis for The Forgotten City, and he just, I read it to him over the phone, and he was just so intrigued with it. He hopped on the flight, came back home, and we just kind of hit the ground running. And the people were really receptive to it because the area where I come from, we normally don't have a voice if we are speaking in some kind of media. I mean, now it's social media, but even back then it was more so, after like a tragedy happens, somebody gets on the news and say something. So that was the only time we would have like some kind of voice for the little 2 minutes on the news stations or something. So I wanted to let the people speak and create like a forum where it's not like so much, point and finger, but like, factual information, but then at the same time, solutions to some of the problems. And then, sometimes it doesn't take like a person in power or a politician or somebody to have like a really decent solution. So I think everybody needs to be heard. And the Forgotten City was the one that started everything and kind of why I'm doing what I'm doing now and where I'm at in life now.
Well, man, I mean, after watching that film, I mean, there's a couple of questions I have to ask you now. I mean, whatever happened to Marcus, man? Did he make the rap album? Did that
Yeah,
what happened, man?
yeah, he did. He did. I was actually trying to get him into my feature film, but Marcus, unfortunately, his lifestyle is real, and everything he was saying in the film was real, and it wasn't acted, it wasn't scripted, he wasn't making it up or trying to be somebody that he isn't. And he's just been back and forth in and out of jail since then, and it's kind of hard to kind of catch up with him. Although I try, we lose contact for then, and then out of nowhere he finds me, and I try to get him much work as possible. But he did a couple songs. I know he didn't complete the album, but he's just been in and out of correctional facilities since then.
Oh man, well that's as that is the whole sort of essence of what you stand for, man. That's being real. That's the real, man. When we could sit
Yeah,
there and tell some bullshit story, but that's being real, man. I mean, one of the
yeah.
things that obviously watching that film, and it was made back in 2001. I mean, how much do you think has progressed or hasn't progressed since you made that documentary, man?
Right. Yeah, the film was actually completed in 2006. So that's roughly about 10 years. And I say my city, Buffalo, is developing, and I think we're trying to gear ourselves in the right direction. The president from my AOL, I was just recently visited my city, and he said one of the biggest problems we have here is seclusion, and just kind of everybody kind of have their own section here, which is not progressive to the city because if I'm from one part of the town, that means I don't patronize any other parts in the city, which makes it hard for business to really develop. So I'm talking about that in my new documentary right now, and it's more so we got to get past the segregation, obviously the racism, but which is more of like of a broad statement. It's something general to say, but it's really true. And especially here in Buffalo, not just in Buffalo, but the United States, if we don't work on, working together, we're still going to decline as a country.
Well, that's a fascinating sort of area. And I know, I mean, Rich, while you're here, I know you're here for only a short sort of period of time. Is there any sort of, I mean, you're there in the States, man. I mean, what's your particular, angle on what
Um,
Corey just said?
well, in relation to race, or what?
Just generally, yeah. I mean, that whole.
I'm in interesting. Well, when I was raised in El Paso, I was raised in a part of town that was military, and so when you're raised in that environment, I was raised in a colorblind sort of area of town where I'm half Hispanic, half German, Czech, and Norwegian, and so then my friends would range from Irish descent, African descent, and Hispanic descent, and so I really didn't see much racism until I was older and moved out of that part of El Paso. El Paso, I definitely, my grandfather on the Hispanic side. There was a time when he was about in his early 20s when he couldn't be on the north side of the freeway of Interstate 10 because that was the white part of town. And so if they saw him on that part of town, they would stop, hey, what are you doing on this side of town? It's after 5 p.m. You need to get back to your side of town. And so there was that back, in the 50s. It was real prevalent, and I'm not saying there aren't prejudiced people in El Paso, but in the northeast area where I was raised, it was quite inclusive. I think in large part because the military is sort of that melting pot where you have, if you're serving in a war alongside people, you don't see their skin color anymore when you're in battle. You're really only there. You're protecting each other's back, and then you take that back with you, I think. But later on in life, when I was in my early 20s, I went to Dallas. I think it was Dallas, Texas, and I pulled off in a certain area of town where there was a lot of racial heat going on, and the store owner told me, hey, there's some young boys looking, and he was an older black man, and he told me and my friends, hey, you guys need to get back in your car and keep moving because there's young guys looking for, you guys, basically, so you could tell there's these little hot spots here and there in the big cities especially where it's sad. And a lot of it, it's a historical trauma, I think, is a good part of it. Like I'm sure my grandfather, even though he's decent to white people in general, there's got to be something under the skin there. I remember my cousin was traveling with my grandfather on Southwestern Airlines, and my grandfather, he looks very Hispanic, and there's a couple of young guys in front, a couple of young white guys, and they tell the stewardess, hey, check that guy's green card, make sure he's okay. And here my grandfather served in World War II. He's a decorated veteran, and my cousin was ready to start, he was getting very angry and was ready to say something, and my grandfather said, no, not here. This is not the place for this. Just leave it alone. Let it go. So, that shit happens, and I don't know, I think it takes people like us talking and letting people know that, hey, there are people who love other people. It doesn't matter where your background is from,
Right,
it's just
right.
about people. So, and as long as people like us can still get together and put out the fires when they start to grow, I think that's the important part. So that's kind of my wrap up on that whole idea. But I haven't spent a whole lot of time in very large cities, so I can't really speak to it. I know that when you're in the middle of it for a long time, the prejudices of your peers and your family creep up into you, and they're hard to shake. So
It's I just, even with a lot of people that like my work and respect my work, I just have to apologize to them because I have so many other scripts, I have so much other stuff I want to do, and here we are approaching 2016, and it's just still race, still segregation, still this and this. I'm with them, and I'm just so tired of talking about it. and I'm so tired of everyone else talking about it. But the fact of the matter is still remains, and I see it affecting my people on a daily basis, where I almost feel compelled where I have to do it. But I'm so exhausted with it. It's like I don't know what else to do. And I can kind of understand when people, when they get the this again. Are we still talking about race? Come on, and I definitely understand. But
Yeah.
the fact remains. It's like you won't tell like a Jewish person, get over Hitler or something like that, or you know what I mean. You won't do. I mean, seriously, and I mean that's just the truth. And even some of the comments with my new trailer, it's like I've been called a racist, I've been called an asshole in the city that they know, and I'm with them. I get it, but my reality is my reality. If a person is gay and he's struggling how to tell his family that is gay, only a gay person will know how that person really feel and what he's really going through and the emotions and everything else that goes along with it. I'm not gay, so therefore I can't understand. If you're not Irish, if you're not Jewish, you can't understand a person's plight or what they're going through. So I understand people sick of talking about it, and it's just like beat the death and beat the hell, but somebody's got to do it. And especially with blacks in the States, because we're at a loss for leadership. And if it's going to be me in my little small corner on the earth, so be it.
Well, man, I think that's really inspiring, and I'm fascinated to sort of hear your perspective. You mentioned earlier on about how like here we are in 2015, and we're still talking about it, which is ridiculous because. Man, do you know what I mean? I'm with you. I still can't believe we're talking about this stuff in 2016. But what gives me optimism, I was just saying to Rich before we went live. I think the rise of, and you mentioned it as well, with technology and how we're all connecting. I think these are dissolving the boundaries of us all, and I think the way this is going to progress, and I think maybe future worlds and how virtual realities and stuff. I think all these, at the moment, boundaries between people are going to dissolve with technology. I mean, you think about it in relation to Forgotten City. You think how much more interconnected we are now as a species,
Right.
since you made Forgotten City. But equally, in that same interconnecting, and the fact that me and you can connect, and here we are, 3 parts of the world connecting, like you say, you can live in an area in the city and just 2 streets up the road or 2 blocks down the road, because they're different colour skin, nobody wants to talk to them, and it's very strange. And I'm wondering where you think that maybe technology will advance that, or will help that dissolve those barriers, or maybe you don't think it will at all, or maybe you think.
I don't really think so much far as technology, because that actually makes it worse. It's a lot easier for somebody to type a comment, leave a message, and do something behind a computer and not really stand up to real life. So they made it a lot easier for people, to still run through their daily life pretending that they're all right or don't have these problems with other race minorities. But then when they get behind a computer, it's nigger, spick, Jew, whatever, and it's it's no repercussion. Like nobody. If I just say my name is Sputnik123, that's I'm Sputnik. You know what I mean? So, but what I found out, my wife is Lebanese and German. I have white relatives. I have some of the best friends in the world are white. And even me growing up, what I really realized, being a man now and understanding, anything like a secret or anything that's bothering you that you don't speak about, what does it normally do? It comes out maybe in an angry way, in a way that you didn't mean because you've been holding it for so long. So what I tend to do is just to break all barriers. For my white friends, even if they want to ask something that offends me, ask me, bro. Ask me, because I'll do the same thing with you, and I'll tell you how I feel, and I'll tell you some of the stuff that I've been through. And what I'm growing to notice, it's only making us closer. Yes. From white relatives to white friends to white coworkers, I'm actually getting closer with everyone by being more vocal, and I'm realizing like, wow. So maybe if we stop hiding behind the computers, hiding behind emails, comments, social media, and really, really talk to our peers right in front of us, maybe, we wouldn't be so ignorant or, say some of the things that we say, because, I mean, you see some of the most vile stuff on the internet. and just, people wouldn't say that face to face with a person. So why do it, behind the computer screen? So I feel like, forums like this, how we're speaking, and, really just getting out there and not being afraid,
Yeah, man, and I think you're absolutely right. And I remember going through. Maybe I've always been a bit like this as a child, and I've always been the kind of person that's put me head above the parapet. But it's amazing when you do realise that you start to speak to people, and it doesn't matter where they are, where they're from, and when you realise that, gee, man, we're all basically got the same kind of understandings of life. All the shit that you've been through is some of the same stuff I've been through. We may not have the same experiences, but we're like, oh, I know that and I know that. And do you know what I think it comes down to, man? And I've always thought this is how I've always kind of looked at life. That, and I'm sure you've maybe been in situations, or maybe not been in situations, but the times when you sit there maybe around a campfire or a fire or whatever it is, and you're sitting there at night time, and it's like, and you've got a group of people around you, and you're like, and you sit there and you tell all your real stories about life, and then you just realise we've all got so much in common, because we are all literally, when you actually really scale it up, we are just living on a rock. I mean,
Right.
all that separates us is other barriers, like you said. And if we can just stand up and break down the barriers, but it takes people to stand up. And the trouble is, we live in a culture where people are, like you said, they're pushed behind screens, and they're pushed into fear and not to talk to each other and stuff. And it's important. That's why I think it's inspiring, and it's always good to that's why I will flag someone like you up and fly the flag for you, because I think it's inspiring that we have people like yourself standing up and talking about it, because this is how we progress, by understanding that we're all just going through the same experiences, but from different angles.
And I feel like just how vocal we are on TV or internet or whatever, we should be that same way live and in person.
Mm-hmm.
And just like the picture behind you, it's a beautiful picture. It started off a clean slate, and that's like a human being. We all start off with clean slates, and it's what happens in our life that's going to make that picture beautiful or make it a nightmare. So you know what I mean? So I feel like if we help each other, and it's like I'm 34, I'm a 34-year-old man, and I still have the sense enough to still want to be educated and still learn experience, and I think we all need to do that. And I feel like sometimes we'll be so set in our ways, and we know what we know, and it's just our little small corner on the world, and it's a big world out there. And it's just forums like this, we have to be vocal about it. But the Blackness Project, you see that there?
Mm-hmm. Nice.
All right, so this trailer, I don't know if you've been reading the comments, but
Yeah,
it's
man.
more so, it's been crazy. It's been crazy. But I feel like no matter what people are saying, as long as I got them talking, I'm doing my job, and I'm creating a dialogue. So if I have to, entertain people with shock value, or, say, look at this to get your attention, and put some crazy stuff out there just to get people to talk, I'm willing to do it,
Well, man, that's a perfect thing. I mean, tell us more about the Blackness Project. I mean, just quickly. I mean, you mentioned it was in reaction to seeing the Whiteness Project again, which I hadn't seen. Neither of which I've seen. So tell us more about the Blackness Project.
Yeah, well, it started from me actually seeing the Whiteness Project and seeing the comments and how people just kind of felt alienated, and it just had people really, really upset. So it almost went from that to me actually being inspired by it. So it's like, well, now what's happening is this. It's almost where you creating a dialogue, but people are talking, so it's not such a bad thing. So I'm like, okay, well, let me give it from a minority perspective, and kind of feel how they felt when seeing the project, and then any other thing that happened as far as in their life experience dealing with racism, segregation, and whatever. And it kind of just like catapulted to where like people were really receptive. I've even been speaking with the director of the Whiteness Project in hopes of even working together, and that's what I'm talking about. You can take something that may even look like a travesty or even a tragedy, and just like, how could somebody do this, to almost make it enlightenment. And opposed to me looking at it, what is this whiteness bullshit? he just got a bunch of white people talking and motherfucker, like how dare you do that? I could have took that approach, which is the ignorant approach, but I wanted to look at it from an intellectual perspective and see like, okay, I'm a filmmaker, I'm an artist, and I'm gonna look at this as a piece of work that the artist, he thought about this and he wanted to get a certain reaction. So I'm like, okay, we're going to do it the same way, but obviously we're going to have it from different walks of life, which is not only is it getting people to see his project as well, but it's creating a dialogue. And, as long as people are talking, we're making progress.
Okay, so what's the sort of, again, what's the sort of thesis of the film? Is it you?
Well, we got I got like doctors, lawyers, actors. I got a judge on it. We got all different walks of life. I didn't want to say I wanted this kind of specific kind of person or that kind of specific person. So we just took a wide variety of minorities and African Americans, and we had them watch the Whiteness Project, and we interviewed them on that, and then we just started with everything that they've been through coming up in the city of Buffalo, and just even people that's not from here, kind of the experience that they deal with. And it's just, I feel like it's important, especially when a person says something like, oh my God, how are they still talking about race, or that shit doesn't exist anymore. But if a person tells you their story from their perspective, maybe it's a lot more receptive opposed to just, okay, well, still racism, man, and the black man is being held down. Like, nobody's going to hear that. Maybe if you hear one individual tell a story, like I had an editor from New York City come here. He worked on me on my first project, actually, Steve Powell, he worked with me on Forgotten City. And after watching some of the dailies and some of the interviews we did, for the first time in his life, he put himself in a position because of a story that he heard. And the story that he heard was an older black man. He was like, he's in his like 60s, late 60s, hot summer day, wanted to go in the ocean and go for a swim, but couldn't go in the ocean because there was no blacks allowed. And the way he told the story, it gives you chills. And it was the first time that my editor I'm working with put himself in that shoes, like, wow, I'm white, I have tattoos, I can cover these up, and and I can look normal. I can put on a suit, and people can perceive me as an intelligent white person or whatever. But if you're black, you're just black, and that's just it. It's no hiding it. It's no I can like still mix in this crowd. So I think for the first time in his life, he kind of put himself in a different in someone else's shoes, and you should have seen the look on his face. It was almost like enlightenment, and it's like that's why I'm doing projects like this. I can go do a sci-fi, a romance, or horror, but if I can do something that can really change the world, and not like change the world in a mass effect, but just a couple people, which can have a ripple effect, that's so much more satisfying than any amount of money I can get, any amount of success I can get. If I can enlighten people, man, that's my ultimate goal.
You're pretty close to New York City, right?
Yeah, right 6 hours.
6 hours.
Mm-hmm.
I met a couple of really cool guys from there. One of them was my wife is a big Shakespeare geek, and we got a phone call one day because we had done a movie called Billy Shakespeare, and this guy was passing through town on a bicycle. Now we live out in the middle of nowhere. We're not near a big city, and so a guy calls us and he's on his bicycle and he says, I do Shakespeare, like 5-minute Shakespeare episode performances for anybody. He'll in a parking lot of a gas station, he'll give a 5-minute Shakespeare performance. And he said, I looked up Shakespeare in your area, and your name popped up. And I said, and I've done traveling before, basically on where I didn't have any money. I was just making my money by doing photography. And
right.
So I immediately thought, hey, where are you staying tonight? And he said, well, I don't have I don't know where I'm staying exactly. And I said, well, I'll swing by, pick you up where you're at. You can come stay with us for a few days. And when I went and picked this guy up, his name's Ralph Jean-Pierre. And if you look up Ralph Jean-Pierre, he's from New York City.
Mm-hmm.
He's a black man about age 30 or so, and he bought himself a bicycle, and as part of his I think I don't know if his bachelor's or master's degree in fine arts, he decided he was going to get on a bicycle and just ride across the United States and perform Shakespeare, like 5-minute little.
Oh my gosh!
And he right now he ended up staying with us for about a week and a half or 2 weeks, and we were able to get him into a few of the high schools here, to our middle schools, to perform. We did some video work of him performing at a Starbucks. It was great. But he's
that was awesome.
Yeah. And so, he said, it's scary getting out there and doing what he did, and he's not like in really good shape. So here he is riding his bicycle across the United States and all the way to the West Coast and up, and then across back to the East Coast. Anyway, if you look up Ralph Jean-Pierre, he's really a great contact for, like, I think not only acting but just in general, really cool guy. And
yeah, just him just getting up and doing that. I mean, that's already inspirational. So he's still in New York?
Yeah, he's still in New York. And then another guy that my wife actually represents, and she gets him gigs, he's called the Sonnet Man. And he's also a black man in his 30s. And he raps the Shakespeare sonnets. And we did a music video of him recently. And it actually made it into the Stratford Film Festival. So my wife is heading out to Stratford, England in a week. And they saw this video of... So the Sonnet Man is Devon Glover, and Devon Glover lives in New York City. And so there's two guys that are really talented that, I don't know, in your neck of the woods that you could look up for if you want.
Yeah, I'm actually going to New York next month in November, so I have to get some information on where can I find these guys and, make sure we cross paths and encourage them on their journey. I mean, riding a bike and doing you got to give somebody props for something like that.
Right. And Devon, he's been traveling internationally now, rapping his Shakespeare sonnets. So you have two guys that were involved with Shakespeare, doing Shakespeare, around the same age group from New York. And it's really, when you look at what they're doing, they're taking something that is most typically thought of as a white thing, Shakespeare. Right, and they're taking that and they're making it to where people can understand it now, right? Because,
yeah, that's cool.
And he's like, especially with Devon Glover, what he'll do is he'll take a sonnet and he'll rap it in his words, or first he'll do it in like the Shakespeare language, and then he'll break it down in modern language so that everybody can understand it now. So he's taking something that has almost been forgotten, because a lot of people don't understand that the way that Shakespeare wrote things down and exactly what he meant when he said things a certain way. So it's really quite amazing, because he's taking something and he's making it, he understands it better than almost anybody now, because he's taken it and literally word for word translated it into a modern vernacular. And so yeah, it is quite powerful. And
very nice.
Yeah, worth looking at.
All right, I'll check it out.
Corey, I have to sort of ask you. I mean, obviously, we've spoken about Forgotten City, but what was your journey into making films and stuff? Was this something that you explored through school and education, or was it something you did as a side project? I mean, how did this all sort of develop?
Well, I've always been a writer, just at heart, just growing up. Something that I paid attention to, encouraged by my mom. She used to write a lot too, so always been a writer. I went to college for creative writing, and I didn't have so much interest in any filmmaking or anything. I just wanted to write stories and, just kind of explore that imaginative part of my brain. And that tragedy, the murder happened, and at that point, I felt like maybe writing wasn't enough. I had to get out here and get some visuals. So it wasn't even like something that was planned, or it wasn't something like, okay, one day I'm going to be a filmmaker. It just, I call it divine intervention. I'm really faith-based. I won't say I'm a holy roller, but I just feel like God just kind of put me in a position to do something and really touch the people and have some kind of leadership, because ever since I've been doing films, it's put me in a different position, and people, they listen to me now, and even if they come to my films or my screenings or whatever, it still gives me opportunity to say some things that are near and dear to my heart that I feel like not to only entertain people but educate as well. So it kind of just happened. I went to college. The tragedy happened. My buddy was studying film and arts in LA. I gave him the synopsis. He came back, and just so happened I had a little bit of money saved, bought a camera. I took some additional classes, just learning the art of cinematography, just so I can become a better filmmaker. You know, you have to sometimes learn to shoot and edit to make sure that your vision gets out there properly. So I went through all those channels, and here I am now.
Well, that's fascinating. You know, absolutely fascinating with how you like you say, because like you mentioned, if you watch Forgotten City, you see the whole like you can almost see that crossover point in your life when other events step in. Now, I mean, one of the things that you it's kind of a recurring question that maybe through particularly Forgotten Cities, you got to a lot of people in different positions, whether they're in the government or the state or different places and stuff, and you ask them, say to them, if I could give you £100,000 or a limitless check, what would you change? And now I'm going to flip that question to you. If I could give you, Korey, an endless amount of money, what would be the first thing you would do?
Well, first I would ask for more. I was 24 when I asked that question. So when you're a 24-year-old kid, kind of fresh out of college, that sounds like a lot of money. But now that I'm older, I would ask for a little bit more. And I would really start with education. And I guess I would say not just even with children, because it's still, sometimes you have grown adults, they're adults in age, but there's still some, I won't say immaturities, but there's still some things that can be taught and managed. So I feel like, all right, this is a little crazy idea, but I don't know if it would just help out everywhere or just specifically are you talking about specifically for my city, or are you talking about like something worldly, if I were to get a certain amount?
You can do both, man. You can start off with Buffalo, then we can talk about the world.
See, if I started in my city, I would start with education programs, and as people come to these classes, and we kind of just do like some social reform, maybe they have a benefit for coming. So even if I have to give free food or whatever, give the building, if I can just get people in one forum and have open dialogue, starting with something as simple as that. I think people really underestimate the power of communication. And even if you're with somebody and you're on a daily basis, but you're not saying some of the things that need to be said, that's not really helping the overall cause and to getting people together. Just because we're seeing each other every day, or you're liking my stat on Facebook, we're not really connected, man. So to get some real kind of connection, I feel like it takes a process. So I will start with just some education, and that's my quick answer. I would probably need some more time to think about it, because we have a lot of issues here in Buffalo, and certainly have a lot in the world, in the states.
I'm fascinated with your vision of education, because this is something I spend a lot of time contemplating myself, because I try to sort of see how things are going to sort of pan out in the world. And I think that, and I don't know how you feel about this, I think that maybe we should really kind of be, completely rethink education and say, instead of just basically pushing kids through these schools where they're just taught dates and numbers and facts and just pushed to basically just get school results, maybe we should put the kids in control and say to them, right, okay, listen to this. You take a bunch of, say, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10-year-olds, and you say to them, look, what in the world right now is the things that you would like to solve? And say one girl stands up and she says, or a little kid says, oh, I know, what's really bugging me is global warming or racism, and how can we solve this? You know what I mean? And then you basically That's the question they want to solve. And then all we do for the rest of their education is we just give them ways and means to find answers to that problem. And through that, they will learn and develop. And they won't have only this curriculum and dates and stuff. Because when you realise that, and I'm going off on a bit of a riff here, but you realise how much of education is just teaching kids dates and numbers and a history that's basically a lie. I mean, we've all been taught lies everywhere. So if you just took all that away, I think that's how I think education can really progress in the future, where you just, instead of putting kids into classrooms and just teaching them facts, we say, right, take a group of kids, let them explore, and let's help them and develop the world like that. That's my sort of vision. Sorry, you just go on.
No, I'm with you, because ignorance is bliss. And in my journey, even in filmmaking, where I'm noticing like intellectuals and people who have some level of education are not running around saying, kill all white people, death to niggers, and I hate Jews. Like, they're enlightening. They're more enlightenment, and it's more so, history and, whether it's a political conversation or religious, the more you know, I guess the less hate that you have. If you only know one thing, or not even so much one thing, but if you only know and see a certain thing all the time, you're going to pretty much become that. So even if these kids and the households they're coming from, or the parents or relatives doesn't have much to offer, if we as a system, as a country, as a people, start educating in different ways, in different shapes or form, because not everyone is going to have college graduate parents, Ivy League parents, or even parents that have a high school education. So you're sticking these kind of kids in with kind of kids where some are educated, some are not. Influences happen, man. And if this kid is maybe more popular, or he's kind of cool, good at sports, the girls like him, he can have influence on those other kids who even may be educated and know better, know enough, but he's the cool kid, so we're going to follow suit. And wear a swastika or whatever they call it on their clothing or whatever. Like, I don't know if you guys seen the movie Higher Learning. You ever seen Higher Learning? Think about Remy.
Yep.
Good kid, didn't know too much, didn't have a lot of friends, but here's a group that accepted him and, befriended him, and he adapted to their ways and their beliefs. And that right there, I give that example a lot, is what's happening to a lot of our kids.
Yep, and that comes down to, and I think it's essential, and this is what I love having conversations like this for, because I think the real part of life is we get every idea and we sit on the chair of reason, and let's discuss ideas, like you were saying earlier on. Let's all open up and discuss things, man. As long as I'm not harming you and you're not harming me, what shouldn't be on the table? Because when you actually really put all of it into scale, we are just on a rock that's tumbling through a universe, and we haven't got a clue. So the problems we're talking about are solvable, but we just need to sit down and talk about them, and not have these barriers between us all. That's the thing I think we can really move forward. Now, the other thing as well, and I think it's one of the elephants in the room that I'm so glad you tackled in your film. There are so many elephants in the room that people don't look at. For instance, people looking at the current system as it is, and it doesn't matter how much money you pump into it. We've still got kids that have been brought up with parents who are on not maybe never seen their fathers. We've got people living in absolute deprived situation, and like you give the example of a kid. He goes to school, he may be sitting in the classroom, but then he's going home and he's having maybe he doesn't see one of his parents, and that parent may be completely addicted to some horrendous drug that's eating them away, and they don't see anything but beatings and stuff like this, and you wonder why we're turning out society like we are. There's some really fundamental questions that need to go on, which I'm so glad your film tackled, because you don't see this tackled a lot. I mean, I always put the Forgotten City, and I've put it on a line with The Wire, because there's not many things in my life that I can point people out and say, there you go, that's actually telling the truth about what's going on, rather than just trying to put it into simple answers. And that's what I'm saying. It's about tackling those big white elephants in the rooms, which you do.
Right. Well, as a people, we got to get out of individualism, and I know it's tough with bills and relationships and children and just so much other stuff in the world that's going on to make you not give a shit about humanity. But we got to get back to just caring about each other as human beings.
Mm.
My phone is going to die really soon, but I just want to end on that note. With anybody that's seeing this, anybody that's watching it, and make sure you send me the link because I want to post it too. But we have to get back to just caring and loving each other as a human being. I have to put all differences aside. I have to, get over my personal life. I mean, it's a lot. It's a way bigger picture than just me as an individual or just you or anybody else. If we can get back to loving each other as humans, we can really, really make this world a better place. Because I feel like it's getting worse and worse and worse every year, and it's pretty sad just to kind of see what's going on still in this day of age and this day of technology and all the advancements that we have. We still can't get over things that we struggle with from the beginning of this country.
Well, look, a couple of things before we tap out, Korey. One, I think we're definitely. I want to get you back on this podcast because I think there's a lot of things that we could really go pretty balls deep on. We scraped upon tonight, so I'm looking forward to that. Secondly, where can people reach out to you and contact you because if they want to,
my Twitter is at Korey Green at Korey Green Green. Facebook Korey Green. Instagram at Korey Green. So, shoot me a private message. Whatever you want to ask or whatever. I'm very open. I'm not one of those directors or filmmakers that have people respond for them. I like to be really, really hands-on. And even if it takes me a second to get back, I will get back. And like I said, I want to, it sounds a little bit corny, but I really, really want to make the world a better place, and I need good people with me. So I'm very, very receptive to anybody that's wanting to tackle on race, segregation, anything. Just like as long as we're coming together, I'm all for it.
And the other thing, Korey, where are people going to be able to sort of go and see the Blackness Project? I'm over here in England. Are we going to get to see it over here in the UK at all, or?
Yeah, definitely. Well, my last film I did, we got distribution. So, this film I want to actually try to even get distribution before the film is released. So I'm just working really hard on getting that done. But just trying to create a budget, and any places that allow me to show the film, I'm going to show it. I'm not going to release it right online right away because I want to do some kind of theatrical release in some theaters. So we'll see what happens, but hopefully I get distribution and, you can watch it on TV, Netflix, pick it up at a Walmart, Target, wherever. But my goal is to really get worldwide distribution.
Well, go on, Rich.
Wanted to chime in there along the lines of distribution. There's something called Watch My Bit, and that is live right now that you can upload videos to and charge as little as 5 cents per view because people are paying with Bitcoin, or you can charge $1, $2, but it's a good way to monetize it rather than giving it away on YouTube if you happen to put it on YouTube. And that way you can direct people to your video via YouTube and through other outlets. But I bet with
great.
Probably won't have a problem. Definitely won't have a problem. I think getting a major distribution deal going, and then going forward. I don't know how much you all have talked about the Safe Network, but that'll be an amazing way to distribute your content because every time it's viewed, you can be earning some money that way. And the way, I don't know if you know how Made Safe works and the Safe Network works, but once it goes live, to me, that's a no-brainer. Anybody who is a digital content creator needs to get their work up on there because it does a couple of things. It makes it to where it's secure, and because it's backed up across possibly thousands of computers around the world, and it also makes it to where anybody can access it, and it can't be censored in any way. So I guess his phone gave out.
Yep.
If he goes back, and listens to it, that'd be the way to go. Anyway, I'm glad I caught up with you there. I guess that's that. That was a good interview.
That's cool, Rich. Well, that's a perfect way to end this, and I'll just say, life is people.